But as I said, the engineer in me came to this idea where it's a little bit like gardening and agriculture. We have some source material that we're maybe working with in a in our kitchen windows, preparing for the spring to come. And so, is the material ready to be transplanted? And then secondly, we have to do some preparation on the ground and get the fertilizer and the tilling and the water systems and all of that. And so, have we prepared the site to accept this, that we're going to transplant into it? So to me, this is a great analogy of spreading ideas or spreading practices. We have to think about both of these to be successful. And so as part of that, this is just a two-dimensional matrix that looks at on the lower side is the degree of certainty. How certain are we that this is ready for spread? And I appreciate your ranking 1 to 5. Look like most of you felt pretty confident that your ideas are ready for spread. The other axis is degree of agreement. And so if we look at who are the possible targets, do we have, what level of agreement or readiness do we have for each of those sites to accept what we're trying to spread? And so you could redraw these axes on practice readiness and site readiness to receive. And what we found in looking back on projects and using this kind of methodology in more current projects, when you have a high degree of certainty and you have everybody's ready to receive it, it's a great idea, and it's not so complicated that we can't do it fairly quickly, that we're positioned for rapid spread, and it's kind of a just do it. It's ready to go. But oftentimes, especially with more complex projects, we look at the practice, and even though it may be working pretty well in our current site, it has, as we think through lots of tactical details, the practice really isn't ready. There needs to be some other things that enable it to be more ready for spread. And at the same time, it may be that we have several targets, and some of them are very excited about doing it, and others, because of environmental concerns, priorities, resources, they're less interested at this point in time, or maybe not interested at all. And so taking some time as we're preparing for spread and thinking about both of these dimensions, practice readiness and site readiness to receive, are critical. And the reason we do this is there's several different approaches you might use for spread. And we'll cover this in a little bit more detail in the next session, but I wanted to start with the end in mind to build on this. So if we have high readiness in both dimensions, it really is a just do it project. If we have a fair amount of readiness in the practice, but it's not to the point where we know it's going to work everywhere, we may want to do something in the lines of replicate using waves. So we find one organization or two organizations that are willing to try it, and we might even pick organizations that are very different. So we suspect it's not going to work perfectly, and through refinement, prototyping, or testing changes, we eventually get it so it's working well in multiple conditions, and then we're ready to advance that to a few more sites and eventually get to everybody. On the other hand, if the practice is real clear and we don't have a high priority from a leadership standpoint, or a lot of questions about whether we really want to do this, more of a diffusion approach may be the right way to go. And just a little bit I've heard from some of you, this may be more of the case for a lot of the lot of your projects, although again, we haven't done a deep dive into each and every project. This will be up to you to kind of go through this and let us know what you think. But diffusion is where it's a good practice, it's solid, and without having this high priority where we got to get it done now, it's more of a opt-in to the change, and it's a slower process, probably follows more of a natural progression of willingness to change and adoption of change. And then in between, I'll talk more about this next time, but using a collaborative approach where we don't have everybody on board, but we've got quite a few, and the practice still needs work. So it's an opportunity, and IHI, Institute of Healthcare Improvement, uses this approach a lot. It's a chance to come together in teams and over a period of a few months, work together as a collaborative to come up with changes and share those changes. So everybody teaches and everybody learns is kind of a theme with that one. So that's where we're headed, is by doing these readiness assessments, you'll be able to use that information to inform what approach might be best for my my particular spread project.